33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here. Show me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Molgat for Kelowna Now. And we're joined by Rafael Villereal. Did I get that right?
That's okay. Close enough.
Close enough. How do you say it? Come on.
Villereal.
Villereal. Hey?
That sounds good.
So you're the guy that heads up transportation at the City of Kelowna.
Yes, it's a fairly new department. It's about 2 years. So what we did is we combine a lot of the transportation groups in the city under one roof. So now we have transit and programs, transportation engineering, and strategic transportation planning.
Okay, so within the last few weeks, there's been a few incidents on the bridge that have caused huge traffic jams. Right away, people start saying, never mind, waiting 30 years, we need that second crossing right away. What's your reaction when you hear people saying, we need that second crossing and we need it now?
I think it's a fair concern. However, when you go back to the history, there's a lot of history in this second bridge. And part of the challenge with the second bridge is it's one solution, and it seems like the logical solution. The implications are huge. And again, that's something the ministry is working on. It's not necessarily the city, but the city has to participate. When we look at any different alignments that are out there for a second bridge, there's going to be some consequences, some huge cost, some environmental cost, and possibly, no, probably likely, some people that might need kind of to move. So,
right.
so it's extremely complex, and there needs to be a business case as well that shows that it's worth the investment because it's going to be a major investment.
Like $1 billion or something.
Around $1 billion. And it's not the bridge, it's the bridge, but how do you connect that bridge back to the network? And that's when it gets extremely complex.
So let's take a look at some of the options that we've seen at previous open houses. Somewhere, if there is a second crossing, somewhere between Clement and Knox Mountain, you see these different options. Some of them seem to carve a path right through the residential area of the North End. So should people who live in those areas be sort of planning accordingly? Should they avoid major renovations to their homes? Should they be looking at which houses fall under those dotted lines that we see on maps?
And again, it's a fair concern, but it goes back to, there's been many alignments. I mean, there was a study that happened late in the 90s, and there was kind of a bit of an alignment as well, kind of on both ends. And it's not just on the Kelowna side, it's also on the west side. There's also how do you connect the bridge on that end. Again, I have to be careful how I talk about this because the ministry are the ones leading this process.
I take it it's the ministry, but yet it affects the city so much that I think it's fair to speculate. And I know the city has to plan for at least the possibility.
Exactly. I think if anything, the city will try to protect as much as we can, like any expropriation, especially in the North End, because the North End is becoming kind of a very livable neighborhood. So it will be really sad kind of to have a highway just crossing kind of across the North End. Yeah. There are some other options explored in some of those documents. One was going kind of right at the edge of Knox Mountain. And again, ideally, it will be kind of more of a cut and cover, so more of a tunnel.
Cut and cover. So cutting into the base of the mountain and then sort of like almost a tunnel.
Exactly. So you mitigate a lot of the impacts, and then it connects back to Clement. But I think we need to kind of go back up again. It's like we're talking about a second bridge, probably $1 billion investment, in a times when technology is changing quite a bit. So I even argue is that really the bridge the solution? I know it seems like, yes, let's build a bridge, but if you go back to simple laws of economics, it's demand and supply. If you put demand, you put supply, what do you get? Demand.
Well, I've heard this before from traffic planners, that if you build superhighways with exit ramps and clover leaves, you fill them with cars.
Yes.
And then more are wanted. If you don't build them, then people arrive at bottlenecks and say, tomorrow I'll do something different.
Exactly. Another thing, it's not about not building at all, like a road. It's like we have to be very strategic. Part of the challenge with the second crossing is, because we have our options are very limited, a lot of the thinking is, let's build that second crossing so somebody else is going to use it, because I still need to get to where all the jobs are. So I'm going to keep using kind of the existing one. So the question is, who's going to be that crowd that is going to be using that second crossing? because the reality is the jobs and the destinations, the activities are right on the existing one.
Right.
So, and that's where, and again, we don't have an answer for that. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen to see, it is worth it to build a second crossing, billions of dollars, for something that we're not sure yet if people are going to use. So
Right.
again, that's where the studies need to happen. It is like, only if it is a business case, not just to have a second crossing for the sake of having it, because somebody's going to use it, and what if nobody uses it because it doesn't connect to anything?
Right. So this billion-dollar second crossing would cut a swath through an area that we're trying to make more livable, and even still be a distant second choice to 90% of the traffic.
We don't know that. That's things that we have to study. And that's part of
Right.
the work that the ministry was doing. I think that they have some very fair options kind of to explore. But at this point, what I would say is like, I cannot really comment what is happening there, but
Right.
it's just super complex. And part of the things that we need to understand a bit is like, it's a complex situation. It's not that here is the black and white solution, especially knowing that there is a lot of technology coming down the pipe that might change the way that we see transportation. I'm talking about autonomous vehicles and some of the things that are even new ways that
Right.
we see transit.
Right. So once computers start driving our cars, we could get more people across a bridge than we can leaving it up to humans to decide when to pull forward. And yes.
In theory, yes. In paper, in
Yeah.
theory, yes. We will. The computers will optimize the use of the infrastructure. However, we will also have to be super mindful, like what policies are coming, so we don't just have kind of a bunch of cars driving alone all over the city, because it might actually get even worse. So there's some things that we also have to be mindful. It's not the
Right.
panacea.
So what I'm hearing from you is the possibility that I think some people are going to think that is crazy, and that is that there may never be a second crossing, that we will adjust to how we live and how we move ourselves so that one is never needed, that we never need to absorb all the cost and the expropriations and things that occur with a second crossing.
That's something I cannot answer, but what I can say...
But it's possible.
It's a possibility, yeah, I think it is, but I cannot answer that. But what I can say is, part of the work that we're doing, and I think and part of the work that our mayors are doing, they have this thing called the STPCO, which it is the Sustainable Transportation Partnership of the Central Okanagan. So we have the 4 mayors of the Central Okanagan, the chair of the regional district, and the chief of West Bank First Nations, working together to see what is that future that we want for transportation in the region. So right now we're working in the regional transportation plan, which it is not just about the second crossing. If anything, we will inform the ministry, but the reality is like, let's start seeing this region as a whole, because transportation is not just about like the highway. What we're finding is there's one thing that we call the regional transportation network. There's a lot of regional destinations out there that we need to start thinking how we're going to be dealing with those. So the hospital, Glenmore Road, for instance, that connects us back to Lake Country. And so there's a lot of like, and all the cycling and trails that we have that are regional in nature. So that's what we're trying to do. Let's go back one second. What is regional in nature? Let's see what is that vision that we have for regional transportation, and then we can inform the ministry. And the ministry is also sitting with us in that plan, so they have their technical representatives helping us kind of to shape that plan.
Right. The other thing is changing people's transportation habits. And I know it gets into a dangerous area politically, but you could, instead of just putting lots of ads out saying, come on, people use transportation, you can start to give them the carrot and the stick, and that is start putting tolls on heavily used highways. And on the other end, give people less expensive and better public transport. So toll people who are crowding the highways and reward them for using public transit in a sort of even off sort of financial system. Is that something that is being considered for the future of this area?
That's an extremely relevant kind of topic and conversation, because what happens is,
and you can talk about it because you don't have to get elected.
no, it's law of economics. It's law of economics, like supply and demand. And so what is really relevant is because the Independent Commission for Mobility Pricing in Metro Vancouver just released a report in May 24th. And basically what the report says is congestion can be addressed with mobility pricing. And they have like 3 elements that they are kind of trying to to make sure that work. One is that it's kind of equitable, so it's not that you are discriminating somebody with this mobility pricing. Second, that you're being effective reducing congestion. One thing about congestion is you don't need to get everybody out of their cars. We just need that 2 to 5%, so it's enough to put you back in a decent kind of, like, I would call it free flow, but something that makes operational the infrastructure.
Right.
So there's been some talks in Metro Vancouver about mobility pricing. Of course, it comes with some political challenges. Like most of the, not most, but many cities were highly congested are working on that. So London did it, Stockholm they did it, New York City is planning on some of those kind of what we call economic tools. Mm-hmm. And now it sounds kind of pretty far-fetched, and we're talking about major cities, but it's starting to happen because at the end, it's been proven that it's kind of the most effective way. Right. And again, it comes with a lot of challenges as well. It's not as simple as saying, no, let's just stall all the roads. Of course not. But it's something that, again, that is being used and it's been proven effective. Right.
It's interesting, you know, when they very first built the original bridge, it was a toll bridge. And it's funny how things come around. I mean, that could be in the future, I suppose. But
it's interesting because still it is. I mean, we're still paying for the bridge. The thing is, we don't pay directly out of our pockets.
Right. But one way or another.
We're paying for the infrastructure.
Right. Anyway, so much we could talk about. Anything else that you would caution somebody who says, what's wrong with you people? When are you going to build me that bridge? What's the short message you give them?
The short message, I mean, it's 3 messages. One, I mean, in the city we're working hard, like to try kind of to adapt to the growth that we're having. We're growing really fast. And again, and we're really trying kind of to catch up with that growth. That's one thing, and I think we're being effective to an extent. There is 3 big plans happening because at the end, transportation is not just about transportation. It's about how we grow. So we have the OCP right now, like happening. The transportation master plan for the city is happening at the same time with the OCP, and then we have the regional transportation plan. So I invite kind of the residents, not just for Kelowna, but the region, to check on these plans, especially the regional at the regional level at the smarttrips.ca and the OCP and the transportation plan. Because again, the way that we grow really defines how we can respond from a transportation perspective.
All right, terrific.
Thank you, Kent.
Rafael Villereal, thanks for coming in, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
Thanks.